Whether you are promoting an e-commerce store, a service-based business, or a personal brand, you've probably heard that a good landing page can make all the difference between empty pockets or money in the bank. And when you Google for the top landing pages, Airbnb is often around the corner. So in this video, I will walk you through the step-by-step process of replicating this high-converting landing page and potentially drive exceptional results. Whether you're a beginner or experienced WordPress user, this step-by-step tutorial will equip you with the knowledge and tools to replicate any landing page. Starting with this one. Hello, I'm Kay from the Astra team, and as mentioned in the intro, I will guide you through a step-by-step process to replicate this high-converting landing page from Airbnb. So once you complete this tutorial, you should be equipped to replicate pretty much any landing page. Now, whether you're promoting an e-commerce store, a service-based business, or a personal brand, understanding the art of crafting an impactful landing page can significantly boost your online presence and drive business growth. And if you want to build landing pages even faster, later in this video, I will share some tools that can do just that. Next, what we'll build today. So this is the landing page that we will be replicating today. And the first thing you can notice is that it uses clear and compelling headlines. Like here, Airbnb, you could earn with the number that you could earn. Or Airbnb easily with Airbnb setup, Airbnb with top to bottom protection. Now the next thing you can notice is persuasive copywriting techniques. Like for example, here we have the comparison with Airbnb and the competitors. And when you screen out, you can see that, most of Airbnb is green, whereas the competitors is red with that red cross here. Next, we have attention-grabbing visuals, and this is it. This banner is attention-grabbing, with faces, smiling faces. They know what they're doing. And the final thing is strategic call to action buttons. So if we scroll down, we see we have this one here, learn more. We have this one here, learn more. But the most strategic one is here in the top of the page, Airbnb setup. Next, what is a landing page and why is it important? Well, a landing page is a standalone web page, and that page serves as a strategic entry point for visitors who clicked on a specific marketing campaign or advertisement. And its primary purpose is to convert visitors into leads or customers by encouraging them to take a specific action. For example, signing up for a newsletter, purchasing a product, or filling out a form. See, landing pages are a crucial component of any successful online marketing strategy because they allow businesses to maximize their conversions and achieve their marketing objectives. Next, what we need for this tutorial. Well, apart from WordPress, the first thing we want to do is to install a WordPress theme. So for that, you want to go to Appearance, Themes, then click on Add New, and the theme we want to install is the Astra theme. So you should find it here, or you can search in the search field. But here I'm going to click on Install and then Activate. And next, with our theme activated, you want to go to Astra, Dashboard, and here on the right hand side you will see the useful plugins, and you want to click on Install the Spectra plugin, which is the visual page builder. Great, and that's all we need except for the sticky header, but I'll talk about that later in this video. Next, let's replicate this Airbnb landing page, shall we? And first, let's take care of our landing page setup. So in WordPress, you want to go to Pages, Add New, and we're going to give this landing page a title, so we're going to call it Airbnb Hosts. And next, you want to click on the little eye to toggle the visibility of the title on the page. We don't want it to show. Next, click on the Astra settings icon, click on Disable Elements, and disable the header and the footer. Now, the reason why we're doing this is because a landing page is a very specific action-focused page, and we don't want users to click on the navigation and get away from this page. Now, on this Airbnb landing page, you will see that there is a custom footer at the bottom. Now, each of these links link to other landing pages. So in that case, it works because it serves the same purpose. What you don't want is people going to another page on your website where they won't take any specific action. Okay, with that out of the way, let's click on Publish. And publish one more time. Next, let's take care of our custom styles. So in WordPress, you want to go to Astra, Customize, and first we want to set our typography. So go to Global, Typography. Next, click on Body Font, click on the drop down, and we're going to look for Poppins font. Now, it's not the exact same custom font as on the Airbnb landing page, but it's close enough. And let's do the same thing for the headings font. Then click on Publish. Next, let's go back. Let's click on Colors. And here, as you can see, we have the global palette, and that's gonna help us down the line. So we're just going to change some of these colors by the Airbnb brand colors. So for color 1, we're going to use this code. For color 2, we're going to use this code. Next, here is the code for color 3, color 4, and color 5. And next, let's click on Publish. Next, let's take care of our container. So let's go back one step. Click on Container, scroll down to where it says Container Width, and we want to change the value by 1280 pixels. Next, click on Publish. Next, creating our header. So as you can see here, our header has 3 elements. First, we have the Airbnb logo. Then we have this text here, ready to Airbnb it. And then we have our call to action button. So let's try and replicate this with WordPress, Astra, and Spectra. So first of all, click on the plus sign, and we're going to create a container. And this container is going to have 3 sub-containers. So we can click on this one here. And now we want to select our main container. So you can click here on the document view. And here is our structure. And if I expand it, you see the 3 sub-containers. So you want to make sure you select the first one here. Then you want to click on the Style tab, Spacing. The row gap should be set to 0. Column gap also set to 0. Padding, 0 all around. And for the margin, you want to click on this icon to unlink the values. And then you want to add a 10 pixels top margin and 0 for the rest. Now, when you look at the 3 sub-containers, they all look equal in width. Whereas if we look at the example on the landing page, you can see that they are not equal here. So we need to fix that. So in the document view, you want to select the 3rd sub-container. Next, you want to click on the General tab, Container, and give it a value of 19%. So make sure that percentage is selected. Now let's select sub-container 2, and this time is going to be 31%. Next, click on sub-container 1, and this time is going to be 50%. Okay, that looks better. Now, in the first sub-container, click on the plus sign, and we're going to look for the icon block. And we want to select this one here. Next, click on the General tab, Icon, click on the icon, and we're just going to type Airbnb. Select the icon and click on Insert Icon. Next, for the alignment, select Left, then click on the Style tab, click on Color, and select the main color that we set in the customizer. Okay, great. Next, we need to add our text. And if you remember, it's this one here. So in the second sub-container, click on the plus sign, and let's type heading. And we're going to select this one. The blue one is the Spectra block. And we're going to replace the text by this text, ready to Airbnb it. Next, for the alignment, you want to click on Right. And the heading tag should be set to div. Next, click on Style, Typography, and for the font size, you want to type 16. Let's close this. And for the color, we want to select our second color from the color palette. Next, click on Spacing, and we want to give it a padding of 10 top and 0 for the rest of the values. Okay, next, let's take a look at our button, and let's try to replicate that. So in our third sub-container, you want to click on the plus sign and then just type buttons. And once again, we'll use this one here, the blue one. This is the Spectra block. Now, as you can see, it adds 2 buttons. We don't need the second one, so let me click on the second one, click on the 3 dots, and click on Remove Button. Next, in the document view, make sure you select the buttons group and not the single button. Then click on General, and for overall alignment, you want to align on the right. And then where it says gap between buttons, you want to change that value to 0. Okay, great. Now you can select the button. So I just click on the button, and I'm just going to replace this text by Airbnb setup. And now, still with my button selected, click on General, Content, Enable Icon, then click on the icon, and I'm just going to type House, and I'm going to use this one. Click on Insert Icon, And then for the icon position, you want to select before text. Next, click on Style, Typography, and for the font size is going to be 18 pixels. Next, click on Icon. The size should be set to 18, and the icon spacing stays at 8. Next, click on Background, and here you can either use a solid color, like this color, but this wouldn't look like in the demo, so more than likely you'll be using the main color, or you can use gradients. So for that, just click on Gradient, and here we are on the normal state. So first I'm going to click on the first value, and I'm going to paste this value, and then I'm going to add a third value here and paste this value, and then for the third value it's going to be this one. Now if you want, you can repeat the operation for the hover state with slightly different values, but this tutorial is going to be long enough, so we're not going to do that now. Next, click on the border subtab, and you want to set the style to none and the border radius to 10 all around. Okay, let's click on update. And now if we go back to the front end, this is our page before we refresh, so blank page. And now let's refresh the page. And there you go. Next, let's replicate the hero section. Now as you can see here, we have two different columns or containers. So let's replicate this. So first of all, let's click on the document overview. And with our main first container selected, let's click on the plus sign and let's add a new container. Now this time we want this structure with two sub-containers. So let's reopen our document overview. Let's make sure we select our second container. And if we expand, as you can see, we have two sub-containers. So with the main container selected, go to Style, Spacing, Row Gap, and column should be set to 0, as well as padding, 0 all around. Now for the margin, once again, you want to click on this icon to unlink the values, and you want to give it a top margin of 80 pixels and 0 for the other values. Great. Next, you want to select the first sub-container, then go to Style, Spacing once again, and the row gap and column gap should be both set to 0. Next, click on the plus sign and search for heading, and we're going to use the Spectra block, and let's replace the text with Airbnb it. Then click on the General tab. The alignment should be set to center. The heading tag should be set to div. And next, click on Style, Typography, and the font size is going to be 48 pixels. And where it says line height, you want to click on pixels, and it's going to be 52. Now before we close this, where it says weight, you want to click on the drop down and select 600. Now let's close this, and now where it says color, you want to click on the color to open the color palette, and let's select our main color. Next, let's right click on the three dots with our heading selected, click on duplicate, and this time we're going to replace the text by "you could earn." And then you just want to change the color in style, and let's choose our second color. Now let's duplicate the second heading, and let's replace the text by this value. Then you want to click on Style, Typography, and this time it's going to be 72 pixels. And the line height is going to be 72. And where it says letter spacing, you want to click on pixels, and the value is going to be 6. Let's close this, then click on spacing. Next, where it says margin, you want to add 20 pixels on top, 0 right, 20 at the bottom, and 0 left. Okay, next let's click back on the previous heading. Click on the three dots, duplicate, and then I'm just going to click on this arrow to move it down. Next, let me replace the text. Then you want to click on Style, Heading, Typography, and now the value is going to be 16 for the font size, and for the line height it's going to be 22. And where it says weight, let's change this to 400. Now let's close this, click on spacing, and for the padding is going to be 10, 0, 10, 0. And next for the margin is going to be 0 all around. Okay, so let's save our work. Let's take a look at the original landing page. And if I refresh our page, okay, this is what we have. Now, if we take a look at the original Airbnb landing page, we can see that we have a slider, and when you drag the slider, it changes the values dynamically. Now, obviously, we're not going to deal with dynamic values in this tutorial. Next, select the last heading, then click on the plus sign and type buttons. Once again, we're going to use the Spectra blue block. Then in general, the overall alignment should be set to full width. Stack orientation should be set to desktop. And the gap between buttons should be set to 0. Next, go to Style, Spacing. The padding should be 10 pixels all around. And the margin, I'm going to unlink the values. It's going to be 20, 100, 20, 100. Next, click on the first button. I'm going to replace the text by this text. Then click on Style, Text, Typography, font size 14 pixels. And for the line height, click on pixels and the value is 16. Now for decoration, we're going to select underline. Let's close this. And for the color, we're going to pick our fourth color. Next, click on background. And for the type, click on transparent. And let's do the same thing for the hover state. Transparent. Next, click on border, and the border should be set to none. Next, click on spacing, and you want 0 padding all around, and the same for the margin. Next, click on the second button and replace the text. So I'm going to replace it with this text, and I want to put it on 2 lines, because if we take a look at the demo here, that's what it looks like. So let me go back, and I'm going to click where I want the 2 lines to appear, and then on the keyboard, I'm going to use Shift and Enter, and there you go. Next, click on General, Content, Enable Icon. Now, click on the icon, and I'm going to look for magnifying glass, and I'm going to use this icon. Click on Insert Icon. Make sure it's set before the text. Then click on Style, Text, Typography. The font size should be set to 15. And then line height, click on pixels and set the value to 20. Let's close this. And next, for the color, we want to select the second color in our color palette. Next, click on background, and we want our background to be transparent in both the normal and hover states. Next, click on border, and for the style, you want to select solid. The width should be 1 pixel all around, and for the border radius is going to be 90 pixels all around. Now let's update and save our work. Now let's take a look at this button here. Let's go back to the original Airbnb landing page, and as you can see here, the text is aligned on the left. Now if we go back, the text is centered and we can't change it to the left. But actually we can with CSS Code. And fear not, because we will provide a code. You find all the details in the description of this video. So let me zoom back out. And if you go back to Astra, Customize, Additional CSS, you just want to copy and paste the code provided. And now as you can see, it's aligned to the left. Now all of this code isn't for that button. The rest of the code is to set the background of the pages white as default, and we will need this for the Google map. And the rest is for the rounded corner of the Google map and for spacing values. Make sure you click on Publish. Okay, so back in WordPress, if I refresh the page we're editing, it looks like nothing changed. But if I go back to the front end and refresh, voila, changes are reflected. Okay, back in WordPress, open the document overview, expand the second container and select the second subcontainer. Next, click on Style, Spacing, Row gap set to 0, Column gap set to 0, as well as padding and margin all around. Next, click on the plus sign and start typing Google Map. Click on the Spectra block, and we're going to change the location to New York, because why not? And on the General tab, you want to change the height to 550. Click on Update, and you can see here the corners are square. But now let's go back, let's refresh our page. And because of the CSS code we added, you can see we have rounded corners, just like in the original landing page. Next, replicating the USP section. And by USP, what it means is unique selling proposition. So why should you do business with Airbnb? So we'll split it in two. We have this first part with the title and the visual, and then we have the text here. Next, back on our page with the second container selected, you want to click on the plus sign and click container to add a new one. And we're going to select this structure here with just one. Next, you want to click on style, spacing, row gap and column gap should be set to 0. The same for the padding, 0 all around. And for the margin is going to be 120 on top and 0 for the other values. Next, click on the plus sign and type heading. And we're going to use a Spectra heading block. And we're going to replace the text by this one. And next we can scroll back up, and where you see this heading, you could earn, click on it and then click on this icon, click on copy style, then scroll down. Let's click on our heading, click on the copy paste icon and paste style. Great. Now click on style, spacing. For the margin, we want to have 0 top, 0 right, 30 at the bottom and 0 on the left. Next, still with our heading selected, you want to click on the plus sign, then type image. And once again, we want to use the Spectra block, so it's all in blue. And here you can either use the media library, but I don't have any images yet, or you can upload files. So I'm going to add all my media files at once, click on open, select the image I want to add, click on select, and there you go. Next, on the general tab, where it says image size, you want to select full size. And now we're ready to add the text that we see here in the original landing page. Next, USP's text. Now once again, USP stands for unique selling proposition, or in other words, why should you do business with Airbnb? So we can see the structure here. We have like one container and 3 subcontainers. Now actually, if there was just 3 blocks of text without a heading here, then we could use one container, then 3 blocks of text, and just use the power of Flexbox. And if you don't know what Flexbox is and how you can use it, I invite you to watch this video. So back in WordPress, you want to click on the document overview. Make sure you select the last container, click on the plus sign, and click on container to add a new one. Now we want to use this structure with 3 containers. And next, let's reopen our document overview. Make sure the main container is selected. As you can see, we have 3 subcontainers. So with the main container selected, click on General, Flex Properties, and for the align items, you want to click on Flex Start. Next, click on Style, Spacing, Row Gap and Column Gap stay at 20, but the padding should be set to 0 all around. And for the margin, you want to unlink the values, and it's going to be 30 pixels on top and 0 for the rest of the values. Next, in the document overview, you want to select subcontainer 1, then go to Style, Spacing, Row Gap and Column Gap should be set to 0, and the padding stays at 10 all around. Next, click on the plus sign in the first subcontainer, type heading, and let's use a Spectra heading block. Let's replace the text by this one. And next, you want to click on General, alignment should be set to the left, and the heading tag should be set to H3. Next, click on Style, Heading, Typography, and the font size should be set to 18 pixels. Next, where it says line height, click on pixels, and the value is 22. Let's close this. And for the color, we want to select the second color in our color palette. Next, still with our heading selected, I'm going to click on the plus sign, type paragraph. Let me click on the paragraph block, and let me paste some text from the Airbnb landing page. Next, where it says text, I'm going to select the 4th color in our color palette. And then where it says typography, I'm going to click on this icon to set the custom size, and I'm going to type 16. Next, let me click on the 3 dots, and I'm going to add the line height value. So let me close this. And now where it says line heights, I'm going to add 1,5 as a value. Next, let me reopen the document overview. Let me collapse this. Let me select the second subcontainer. I'm just going to remove it. Same thing for the 3rd. And then I'm just going to click on the 3 dots of the first subcontainer, click on duplicate, and repeat the operation. And now all I need to do is change the values here. And there you go. So let's click on update. And now let's go back to the front end. Let me refresh. Let's scroll down. And as you can see, our USP section is ready. Next, the comparison section. Now, if we take a look at the original Airbnb landing page, we can see this table, but we can see that various rows are different. So we're going to use a different technique than just using a table block. So back in WordPress, you want to select the last container, then click on the plus sign, click on container to add a new one, and you want to select this one here. Next, let's reopen our document overview, and with our last container selected, you want to go to General, Container, and you want to change the content box width, which is currently 1280, to 848 pixels. Next, you want to go to the Flex Properties and make sure the direction is set to column. Next, click on Style, Spacing. Row gap and column gap stay at 20 pixels. Padding stays at 10 pixels all around. But for the margin, we want 60 pixels on top and 0 for the rest of the values. Next, click on the plus sign and start typing image. And we want to add the blue Spectra image block. Click on Media Library and either drag and drop, upload, or select one image from your media library. So I already got this uploaded. Click on Select. And next, on the General tab, the alignment should be set to center. And for the width, I'm going to set it to 180. Next, still with our image selected, I'm going to click on the plus sign and select a Spectra heading block. Now let me change the text. And now I'm just going to scroll back up, click on this heading, click on the copy paste icon, copy style, scroll down, click on the heading, click on the copy paste style icon and paste style. Now next, let me click on style, typography, and I'm just going to change the value. It's going to be 43 instead of 48. Let me close this. Next, let me reopen the document overview. And with my heading selected, I click on the plus sign and then click on container to add a new container. And then right here, I'm going to click on the plus sign. And once again, I'm going to add a container. So let's open the document overview. So I have this container and a subcontainer. So I'm just going to duplicate the subcontainer twice. And there you go. You can clearly see the structure here. One container and 3 subcontainers. Now, let me select the subcontainer. Go to General, Flex Properties. And for the direction, you want to click on Row. Next, you want to click on Style, Border. The style should be set to solid. And next, for the width, you want to unlink the values. And it's going to be 0 all around, except for the bottom, that should be set to 2. Next, click on the color. And let's select the third color from a color palette. So what we're trying to replicate here is this line here. So let's save our work to make sure we don't lose it. And next, let's change the width of the subcontainers, because you may have noticed, but they're not equal. This one is fairly long, and then you have those two ones, fairly similar. So let's go back. Let's select the last subcontainer. Go to General, Container, and let's make sure percentage is selected for the unit, and the value should be 25. Now let's repeat the operation for the second subcontainer, 25. And by default, the first subcontainer, we should set it to 50. So with our first subcontainer selected, you want to go to General, Flex Properties, direction should be set to column, and align items should be set to Flex Start. Now let's repeat the operation for subcontainer 2. So Flex Properties, Direction Column, and Align Items, Flex Start. Next, click on the plus sign and add a Spectra heading block. Replace the text by Airbnb. Then click on General, Alignment should be set to Center. The heading tag should be set to Div. Then click on Style, Typography. Set the font size to 16. And then for the line height, click on Pixel and type 22. And the color should be set to the second color in our color palette. Next, let me collapse this. Select the third subcontainer, click on the 3 dots, scroll down and click on Remove Container. And then with the second subcontainer, click on the three dots and duplicate. And this time we're just going to change the text to competitors. Great, let's save our work. Let's collapse our container. Let's right click and duplicate. And the reason is simple. So if you take a look at the original landing page, so we just created that row here, the first one, and we can just duplicate it instead of, reinventing the wheel. And all we need to do is to add some text and replace the existing text in the second and third subcontainers by icons. But first we need to take care of some settings. So with our container selected, let's expand it. Let's select the first subcontainer. Click on style, spacing, and the row gap should be set to 10. Next, the padding should be set to 0 all around. So let's repeat for the second subcontainer, 10 and 0. And for the third one, same thing, 10 and 0 padding all around. Okay, great. So now let's select our first subcontainer, and we want to add a heading. Or what we can do, we're just going to click on this heading and just drag it here. Now let's replace the text, then go to General and align it on the left-hand side. Next, with our heading selected, click on the plus sign, click on Paragraph, and I'm going to paste the text from the landing page. Then I'm just going to scroll back up, click on this paragraph, click on the copy paste icon, copy style, then scroll down, and you know the drill now. I click on this paragraph, click on the copy paste icon and paste style. Next, in the second subcontainer, let me click on the plus sign, let me type icon and let me add the Spectra icon block. Then click on icon, change icon. I'm going to type check, select this one, click on insert icon. The size should be set to 26 and alignment to center. Next, go to style, color, and I'm going to paste this value. Let me close this. And next, with my icon selected, click on the three dots, duplicate, and then here you see the 6 dots to drag it. I'm just going to drag it to the subcontainer number 3. And since we are still in the style tab, I'm going to click on the color and replace it by this value for a red color. Then go back to the general tab, icon, change icon, and this time I'm going to type X mark and pick this icon. Click on insert icon, and there you go. Next, let me close this for a moment, and let's click on the competitors heading. Click on the 3 dots, scroll down and click on remove heading. Okay, looking good. Now let me reopen the document overview. Let me collapse this, and with my subcontainer selected, I'm just going to duplicate it. So let's take a look at the original demo. We see we have 3 times the same row. So let me go back and duplicate it twice. And then I'm just going to change the values. And there you go. Now let's go back and let's take a look. So the rest of the table, we have this layout, and then it goes back to the way it was in the first rows. So let's do this. Let's go back. Let me select the last subcontainer, click on the 3 dots, duplicate, and with that subcontainer selected, you want to go to style, spacing, set the row gap to 10, column gap stays at 20, the padding should be set to 0 all around, and the same goes for the margin. Next, let me click on the heading, click on the 3 dots, and click on remove heading. And now let me replace the text by this one. Okay, let me collapse this subcontainer, and I'm going to duplicate it 4 more times and change the values. And there you go. Now let's save our work so that we don't lose it. And now if we go back, as you can see, after these rows, it goes back to the way it was up here. So let's replicate that. Let's go back. Let me scroll back up, and I'm just going to select this subcontainer. Click on the 3 dots, duplicate, and then I'm going to click on the arrow here to move it down. Now let me click on the 3 dots to duplicate it 1 more time. And now I'm just going to change the values. And there you go. Next, with our last subcontainer selected, click on the plus sign, type paragraph, and then I'm just going to paste the text from the landing page. And then I'm just going to click on this paragraph here, click on the copy paste icon, copy style, Then click back on this paragraph, copy paste icon, and paste style. Next, let me reopen the document overview. So with my paragraph selected, I'm going to click on the plus sign, type buttons, and I'm going to add a Spectra buttons block. Now, if you take a look at the document overview, you can see that it's a group of buttons. So we have 2 buttons here. I don't need the second one, so I'm going to click on it. Click on the 3 dots, remove button. Now, let me click here and change the text to learn more. Then with my button selected, click on style, text, typography. The font size should be set to 14. And for the line height, click on pixels and type 18. Now let me close this, and for the color, you want to select the second color in our color palette, and the same for the hover state. Next, click on background, click on color, and select white. And then for the hover state, once again, click on color, and we're going to pick the 5th color in our color palette. Next, click on border. The style should be set to solid, the width should be set to 1 all around, and the radius should be set to 5. Now for the color, for the normal state, click on color and select the second color in our color palette, and do the same for the hover state. Second color in our color palette. Next, click on spacing, unlink the padding values, and it's going to be 10, 20, 10, 20. Okay, let's save our work. And now let's go back to the front end. Let's refresh our page. Let's scroll down. And voila. Next, the showcase section. So as you can see here on the original Airbnb landing page, we have this section here with one title. Then we have what looks like one container and subcontainers if you think in terms of containers. And then in each we have an image, we have like 2 headings. Then we have this text here and the same call to action that we had here. So back in WordPress with our last container selected, click on the plus sign, click on container to add a new one, and select this one here. Next, you want to go to general, container, and replace the content box with value by 848. Next, click on flex properties and make sure the direction is set to column. Next, click on style, spacing. Leave the row gap and column gap values at 20, padding should be 10 all around, and for the margin you want to unlink the values and it's going to be 80 on top and then 0 all around. Next, click on the plus sign and let's add a Spectra heading block. Let's replace the text by this one, and then you know the drill now. We're going to go back up, click on this heading here, click on the copy paste icon, copy style, then scroll down, select our heading, click on the copy paste style icon and paste style. Next, let's open the document overview, and with our heading selected, let's click on the plus sign and click on container to add one container just below. So let's click once again on the document overview, and now with our subcontainer selected, let's click on the plus sign and let's add a sub container. Let's click back on document overview, and as you can see here, it didn't add it where we want it, so I'm just going to drag it on the right hand side, and now it's part of this container. So it is a sub container. So let's duplicate it twice, but this is not the structure we want, but it's easily fixable. So let's select our sub container, then go to general, flex properties, and for the direction we're going to select row, and there you go. So with a sub container selected, go to style, spacing, row gap should be set to 0, and the rest of the values stay the same. Now let's click on our sub container 1, go to style, spacing, row gap should be set to 0, column gap 20, and for the padding value, let's unlink the values, and it's going to be 0, 0, 40 at the bottom, and 0. Next, click on the plus sign and let's add an image, and we want to add the Spectra image block in blue. Click on media library or upload, depending on whether or not you already have images, and I'm going to pick this image. Click on select, make sure the alignment is set to center, then click on style, and for the border, make sure it's set to none, but the border radius should be set to 10 all around. And next, for the margin, you want to unlink the values, and it's going to be 0 all around except for the bottom, set to 20 pixels. Next, with our image selected, click on the plus sign and add a Spectra heading block. Change the text to this one from the landing page. Then on the General tab, make sure the alignment is set to center and the heading tag is set to div. Next, go to Style, Heading, Typography. Set the font size to 12 pixels. Let's close this. And for the color, we're going to set it to the second color in our color palette. Then next, I'm going to click on the three dots on our heading, click on Duplicate, and I'm going to replace the text to match our Airbnb landing page. And with that second heading selected, go to Style, Typography, Color, and this time we're going to pick the fourth color in our color palette. Okay, great. So next, let me collapse this. I'm going to select the second sub container, click on the three dots, scroll down, remove container, and do the same for the last one. And then with my first sub container selected, click on the three dots, duplicate, and one more time. So as you can see, you can use this technique to save some time. So you make sure that the first sub container is as good as possible, then you just duplicate it. So you don't have to redo all the settings. Although we will see in a moment that we might have to change something, but it's easily fixable. So right now I'm just going to change the values. And there you go. So let's save our work. Now let's go back to the front end. Let me refresh this page. And now if I scroll down, here is our section. And as you can see, we have a couple of tweaks to do. We'd like this to be on one line. And also we don't want as much space here between the two headings, because if you look at the original, you can't find that space here. So back in WordPress, let me select the first heading, then go to Style, Typography, and where it says line height, click on pixels. I'm just going to type 1 and do the same thing for the second one. Pixels and type 1. Now you can't really see it now here, but don't worry, it's going to look good on the front end. So what I'm going to do is select my first heading here and then just copy the style. Then I'm going to select this heading, paste style, and the same for the third one, paste style. Now let me do the same thing in the first sub container, the second heading, copy style, and let me do the same and paste style. Now let's update, then let's go back, let's refresh, and there you go. Now let's go back, let's select our heading, go to Style, Typography, and there are several ways you can do this. You can either change the size of the heading, or if you want to keep it the same, you can go where it says letter spacing, click on pixels, and put a negative value. So here I've put -1 and it works. So let me update this. Let's go back and let's refresh. Voila. Okay, let's go back to WordPress, click on the document overview. Let's select our last container, click on the plus sign, and let's add a Spectra heading block. Now let me replace the text, go to General, alignment should be set to center, heading tag should be set to div, then click on Style, Heading, Typography. The font size should be set to 21, and then for the line height, click on Pixel and set 32 as a value. And where it says weight, you want to click on the drop down and select 400. So let's close this, and for the color, let's select the second color in our color palette. Next, click on spacing, and the margin should be 0, 0, 30 at the bottom, and 0. Next, let's scroll back up, click on the button, click on the three dots, copy block, then let's scroll back down, select our last block. Now click on the plus sign, type paragraph, and now click inside the paragraph, and then right click, click on paste, and there you go. Here's our button. So obviously if it links to somewhere else, all you need to do is click on the button itself, content, and change the link here. Okay, let's update our work. Now let's go back and let's refresh. And there you go. Next, the frequently asked questions. So as you can see here, we have a container and two subcontainers if we think in terms of containers. So let's replicate this. So back in WordPress, make sure you click on the document overview. And with our last container selected, you want to click on the plus sign, click on container to add a new container, and we're going to choose this structure. So let's click back on the document overview, And with our main container selected, we want to go to General, Flex Properties, and make sure Align Items is set to Flex Start. Next, click on Style, Background. The type should be Color. And for the color, we're going to select the fifth color in our color palette. Now let's close this, click on Border. The border style should be set to Solid. And for the width, let's unlink the values. And it's going to be 0010. Now let's click on Color and let's select the third color in our color palette. Next, let's scroll down and click on Spacing. Now you want to unlink the padding values and it's going to be 80, 0, 80, 0. And for the margin, you also want to unlink the values. It's going to be 100 on top and 0 all around. So next, in the document overview, let's expand this and let's select our first sub-container. And next, you want to click on the plus sign, type heading, and we want to use this one, the Spectra blue block. So let's replace the text. And actually, I'm just going to put the cursor just before the last word, remove the space, and then I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut, so Shift and Enter, so that I can put that word on the second line, because that's the way it is in the original landing page. Next, click on General. The alignment should be set to left, and the heading tag should be set to H2. So next, click on Style, Heading, Typography. The font size should be set to 37. And then where it says line height, click on Pixel, and it should be set to 42. So let's close this. And now the color should be set to the second color in our color palette. And if you go to spacing, the margin should be set to 0, 0, 30, and 0. Okay, so let's go back to the document overview. Let's collapse this. And I'm going to remove the second sub-container. So click on the three dots and click on Remove Container. Now, with my sub-container selected, I'm going to click on the plus sign and I'm going to look for FAQ. And this is the Spectra FAQ block. So let me click on it and let me reopen the document overview. So next, let me click on General, General, and where it says Expand First Item, you want to toggle this off. Next, where it says Icon, click on the first icon and I'm going to type chevron. I'm going to select this icon and let's repeat the operation for the second one for the active state. But this time I'm going to pick this one. Click on Insert Icon and make sure the icon alignment is set to the right. Next, click on Style and the background type should be set to Transparent. Next, scroll down to Border, unlink the width values and it's going to be 0, 0, 1, and 0. Next, the border radius should be set to 0 all around. And the color should be set to the third color in our color palette. Next, click on the icon subtab. Make sure the size is set to 12 and the gap between icon and question set to 10. So let's collapse this and let's click on the question subtab. Click on typography and the font size should be set to 21. And for the line height, click on pixels and it should be 26. Let's close this. So the text color should be set to the second color in our color palette and the padding should be set to 20, 10, 26, and 0. So let's collapse this and let's click on the Enter subtab. Now the text color should be set to the fourth color in our color palette. Then click on Typography and this time the font size is going to be 27 pixels. And if you scroll down where it says line height, click on Pixel and the value is 24. Let's close this. And now for the padding, it's going to be 20, 10, 26, and 0. Now there are 5 questions in the original Airbnb landing page, so let's replicate this. And I'm just going to change the values. So in the document overview, I'm going to expand the FAQ block, and you see we have FAQ child. So I'm just going to duplicate it 3 more times. And I'm going to change the values. And there you go. Now let's go back and let's refresh the page. And as you can see, it's looking good. Next, the upper footer. So if we take a look at the original Airbnb page, you can see the upper footer here. And this is what I will call like the lower footer. So we're going to split this in 2 parts. So let's replicate it. So with our last container selected, click on the plus sign, click on container. And this time we want to structure with 4 subcontainers. So let me click on this one. Then you want to go to General, Flex Properties, and make sure Align Items is set to Flex Start. Next, click on Style, Background, Background type is color, and for the color, we want to select the fifth color in our color palette. Next, click on spacing, and for the padding, you want to unlink the values, and it's going to be 40, 0, 40, 0. Next, let's click on the document overview icon, and let's expand this, and you can see the 4 subcontainers. So let's select subcontainer 1, and let's add a heading. So this is the Spectra heading block. So let's replace the text. Then click on General, make sure it's aligned on the left. For the heading tag, let's select H3. Then you want to click on Style, Heading, Typography, and the font size should be 13. And where it says line height, click on Pixel, and the value should be 20. Now for the weight, click on the drop down and click on 600. Now let's close this, and for the color, let's pick the second color in our color palette. Then click on spacing, and make sure the padding is 0 all around, and the same for the margin. Next, still with our heading selected, click on the plus sign and add an icon list. And this is the Spectra icon list. Let's click on the document overview, and as you can see within the icon list, you find individual list items. So let's click back on icon list, then click on icon, and we're going to remove the icon because we don't want any icons in this list. Next, click on content and make sure the content is set to vertical and the alignment on the left hand side. Next, click on style, label, typography. The font should be set to 13, and where it says line height, click on pixel and it should be set to 18. Now let me close this. Now in the original landing page, we have 7 items. So I'm just going to duplicate and change the content. So I'm just going to pick the last icon item and duplicate a few more times. And now let me change the content. Okay, so now I've changed the content. So back in the document overview, I'm just going to collapse this. I'm going to remove subcontainer 2, subcontainer 3, and subcontainer 4. And now I'm just going to duplicate subcontainer 1 3 more times. And now I'm just going to edit the content. And there you go. And now let's refresh in the front end. Let's scroll, and voila. Next section, lower footer. So as you can see here, the lower footer is really short. Now, do you have any idea of which blocks I'm going to use? Just pause this video, answer in the comments. And back in WordPress, you want to click on the document overview icon. Make sure you select the last container, click on the plus sign and add a container. So next, you want to click on this structure here, 1 container and 2 subcontainers. And then you want to go to General, Flex Properties, and make sure the direction is set to column. Next, click one more time on the document overview icon and expand the container. And as you can see, we have 2 subcontainers. So click on the first subcontainer, then go to General, Container, and set the width in % to 100. And let's do the same thing for the second subcontainer. Next, let's click on the first subcontainer, then go to Style, Border. The style should be solid. Then you want to unlink the values for the width, and it's going to be 0010. And for the color, we're going to pick the third color in our color palette. So let's close this. And now before we deal with subcontainer number 2, let's click on our main container. Let's go to Style, Background. Type should be set to color. And when we click on color, let's pick the 5th color in our color palette. Okay, that's better. Now let's click on subcontainer number 2, then click on the plus sign. Let's type icon list, and let's pick the Spectra icon list block. Now instead of starting from scratch, what I'm going to do is scroll back up, select my icon list. So let's open the document overview. Make sure you select the icon list and not a single list item that you can see below. So with the icon list selected, click on the copy paste icon, click on copy style, and you should know the drill now. I'm going to select my lists here. So once again, select the icon list, then click on the copy paste icon and paste style. And that's a good starting point. But as you can see here in the list view, the icon list is not where it should be. It should be in the second subcontainer. So I'm just going to collapse this and I'm going to drag it on the right hand side underneath this container. And now it's good. It's within the subcontainer number 2, which is what we want. Okay, so with our icon list selected, I'm going to go to General, icon, and I'm going to remove the icon. Next, click on content and set it to horizontal. So now I'm going to expand this list and I'm going to duplicate 2 more elements. And now I'm just going to edit the content. And there you go. Now, as mentioned before, in this tutorial, we're not going to deal with dynamic data, but if you wanted this type of control, like for the language, for example, with Astra Pro, you could use the language switcher. And if you're interested, you find a link about this video in the description below. So back in WordPress, I'm just going to click on my icon list, click on the 3 dots and duplicate. But this time on the general tab where it says alignment, I'm going to align it on the right hand side. Next, I'm going to click on my container, go to general, flex properties, and for the direction, I'm going to set it to row. And now I'm just going to edit the values. And here I'm going to add an icon. I'm going to type globe. And there you go. So let me repeat the process and change the content. And there you go. So let's click on update. And now if you go back to the front end and refresh, there you go. Next, replicating the sticky header with Astra Pro. So what we built so far is this. It looks very similar to the original Airbnb landing page, but if you go to the original landing page, you'll notice that the sticky header is the difference. So as I scroll, I can still see the call to action here, whereas on what we built now, we don't have the sticky header. So the solution is Astra Pro, and here's how you could do it. So the first step would be to go back to the page in WordPress and delete the header that we built on that page. Now here I've only disabled it, but if you're going to use the sticky header, you would more than likely delete it. And then in the WordPress admin, you will go to Astra dashboard. And then once you've activated the Astra Pro modules, you will click on Header Builder Customize. And then with Astra Pro in the customizer, you can add several widgets. So here the first widget is the icon, and exactly the same icon that we added earlier on in this video. So if you click on the icon, then you click on the 3 dots, click on show more settings, you got exactly the same settings. So you can actually use exactly the same technique outlined earlier in this video. And the same goes for this widget, ready to Airbnb it. So let's click on it, click on the 3 dots, show more settings, and guess what? It's a Spectra heading block. And now for the call to action, you guessed it, it's the same thing. So if I click on it, click on the 3 dots, show more settings, it's a button from Spectra. And the beauty of it is that you can just add any button, then go back to the page we created earlier on and use the style copy paste feature that we've used throughout this video. Next, once you've built your header, go back to Header Builder, then click on Sticky Header and make sure that where it says Sticky Primary Header, you toggle this option on. And now as I scroll, as you can see, our header is sticky. So make sure you publish. And now instead of having a header that goes with the flow, just like we've built so far, with Astra Pro, now our header is sticky, just like in the original Airbnb landing page. Now, if you want to completely master Astra and Astra Pro, take a look at this masterclass video. And if you want to know what's the difference between Astra and Astra Pro, I think you should take a look at this video. And of course, you'll find the links in the description below. Congratulations! With the techniques outlined in this video, you should now be able to replicate pretty much any landing page that you want with WordPress, Astra, and Spectra. Now, at the beginning of this video, I told you that I would share some tools that can help you build landing pages even faster. And the first one is Starter Templates. Starter Templates comes as a library of 200 plus pre-made designs that you can install as full websites or on a per template basis. Now, that's a great starting point if you want to speed up your landing page design process. And the next tool is the CarFlows Funnel Builder. With CarFlows, you can either design from scratch using the exact same tools that we've used in this video, but with the added power of the CarFlows Funnel Builder, like using different steps in flows, A/B testing, and much more. Or you can use pre-made templates crafted with conversion in mind. And if you're interested by any of these tools, you'll find links in the description below. Now, question: which landing page from a famous brand are you going to try and replicate? Please let us know in the comments below.